Sometimes the best projects come from viewers, and today is an example of that. So I had someone send me a short video clip of a shirt they made. They had watched one of my videos to figure out the process. Her shirt was amazing, so I asked her if I could make it too. She was fine with it, so that's what we're doing today. So in this video, I'm going to use an embroidery design from Creative Fabrica, and I'm going to put a scatter fill of rhinestones around it. The things that I'll use: I have this Gildan t-shirt, I have some fabric for the applique portion of the design, I have some Heat and Bond light, I have some basting spray, I have two types of stabilizer, and then I have my mighty hoop. Now for the embroidery and applique part, I'll also use my SmartStitch multi-needle machine. For the rhinestone part, I'm going to use probably one of these two colors of rhinestones. They're SS10 Hot Fix rhinestones. I have a couple of tools. I have the design that I've already cut out, and I have some hot fix transfer tape. In a separate video, I'll show you how I took an embroidery and applique design from Creative Fabrica, and I made a rhinestone scatter pattern for around it. Now in my intro, I forgot to mention that I'll be using a mini iron, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some Heat and Bond light on the back of the fabric, then I'm going to cut out my applique letters in my X-Tool P2 laser. Now that's a CO2 laser, and since I started cutting fabric with it, I have a hard time going back to these. All right, let's go ahead and move this out of the way and get our shirt ready to hoop. So I'm going to use 2 layers of stabilizer. First, I have a no-show mesh. I'm going to attach that to the inside of my shirt with some basting spray. And then for a temporary stabilizer, I have this tearaway. Now you might have heard, if you wear it, don't tear it, but this is not a permanent stabilizer for me in this project. This will be my permanent stabilizer. So I'm not concerned about a little of this being left behind my design. I've done it this way for a long time now. My shirts are washed and dried, they turn out fine, so this is the process that I use. But if you have a process that you use, by all means, please stay with it. I'm just showing you what I do. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and turn my shirt inside out. Now I did pre-press my shirt already to get it nice and smooth, as well as to remove moisture. Also, this is 100% cotton, so I like to press it at a decently high heat for kind of a long time just to see if there's any shrinkage. It's going to happen then. That's the hope. So now I'm going to go ahead and spray my no-show mesh stabilizer. I have a box that I do it over because I have a lot of machinery in this room, and I don't want the overspray from this messing up my machinery. So I like to spray the mesh in a box. As a general rule of thumb, you don't need to be real heavy-handed when you're spraying the basting spray on the back of this, or the part of this that will attach to the shirt. Just enough to help keep it from stretching, puckering, things like that. Then also, once I get my no-show mesh on my shirt, I like to wait a minute or two just to give it enough time to bond really well. So we'll go ahead and turn this back right side out, and I'll meet you at the hooping station. Now this is my large hooping station from HoopMaster, and it uses mighty hoops. This system was expensive, but I absolutely love it. I would not go back and get my money back for this. I would keep this in a heartbeat. So I've opened up these flaps. I'm going to put my tearaway stabilizer in. These are just magnetized. And then I want to go ahead and pull up on it some so I have it a little bit better centered. We'll close these. Then I'm going to go ahead and put my shirt over this. The shirt already has that no-show mesh stabilizer in it. Now here's the top part of the hoop. And this area right here and right here is what's going to fit into my embroidery machine. So it's actually going to be upside down. The shirt's going to be upside down on the embroidery machine. So when I get to the embroidery machine, I'll have to make sure that I rotate my design, or that I flip my design. Here's what it looks like. I think that looks great. Let's take a look at the inside. And there's the back. That looks nice and smooth. Now I went ahead and rehooped my shirt because I needed the hoop to be closer to the top. I wanted my design to be pretty much as high as possible. And remember, the design is upside down because I put the hoop on upside down. Now I want to go ahead and move the hoop though. I want to move the hoop back so that the design is higher on my shirt. All right, I think I'm going to call that good. So the first thing that's going to stitch out on this is the tree trunk. Now I had to do a little bit of digital surgery on the tree trunk, so in a couple places on the tree trunk you might see the brown thread end, cut, and then start over, but that was by design. So the next thing that's going to stitch out is the green, and I'm going to go ahead and turn the light off. I think you can see it better in the recording with the light off. Hopefully you can. If the machine is threaded correctly, the tension's correct, and all things are working together in perfect time, it's amazing what it can do. I also wanted to give you a shot from inside the shirt. To me, this is the biggest benefit of a multi-needle, and that is just how easy it is to hoop shirts and other large items. Now here, I'm cutting my fabric with my X-Tool P2 CO2 laser. The video of this cutting is sped up to 2 times speed, and it took this just right at a minute to cut in real time. But I love how precise the cutting is when I use the laser. You can also use a Cricut, Silhouette, or other cutting machine that will cut fabric to do this. This fabric already has Heat and Bond light on the back, so I'm ready to press it onto my shirt. Now I think this fabric is going to make this shirt. I wasn't too impressed with it until I got the fabric on there, but I love how this fabric looks with it. Now the next stitch would typically be the tack down stitch, but since I've already ironed that down, I can skip that stitch and I can go right to the satin border stitch. The actual stitching time for this design took about 27 minutes, but that is all based on the speed that you have your machine set to. And I probably have mine set a little slower than most people. But other than having to decrease some of the stitches at the top of the trunk and deal with the middle of the palm leaves where they come together because it was extremely dense there, the file stitched out fine. And shout out to Rachel of Unbiased LLC for helping me think this through. This is cute. That doesn't even need bling. Look how adorable that is. But we're still going to add it. Now I do have a little bit of a hoop burn here, so when I'm done, I'll go ahead and kind of spray that down with a little bit of water, press it. Hopefully that goes away. Also, I'm going to wait and cut down my stabilizers after I add the bling. And speaking of bling, I had about 5 or 6 different colors that I kind of liked with this fabric. In the end, I'm going to go with this Jonquil AB. So here's the template. And let's go ahead and pour quite a few stones on here. I like to have way more than I need. And if you're new to rhinestones, these are SS10s. That's the size. Most common in apparel is SS6s and SS10s. And then these are hot fix rhinestones. So hot fix means that there's a glue on the back of these stones. Of course, that glue right now is a solid, but when we put this down on the shirt and we press it, that heat's going to melt the glue on the back, and then that's what will adhere it to the shirt. So I'm going to go ahead and brush these in. I just kind of go in circular motions. Then we'll look for any problem areas. When I get to that point, I'll be back. Okay, so at this point it looks like most of the holes are at least filled in. So I'm going to go ahead and remove the extra stones. Now I am not pushing down. You don't need to push down. I'm basically just swiping them off to the side. If you push down too hard, you're going to dig a stone out, like I did right there. Let's see if we can't get that one to fall into place. Now I'll go ahead and swipe these down. And then we'll move these off to the right. Now that most of those extra stones are off, we're going to look for a few things. We're going to look for open holes, holes that don't have stones in them yet. We're going to look for upside down stones. We're going to look for double stones, and then we'll look for just anything that looks out of place. So I have an upside down stone right here. Let me go ahead and get it off. Move that one back over. I have an open hole right here. So let's take this extra stone, move it up. I have an extra stone here. We'll put it into that open hole. And then let me just start taking off all these extra stones. Now some people are good enough at this that they can pretty much brush the stones in, brush them off, and they're about done. Me, it takes me a little bit longer. Well, I thought I was at a stopping point and I have one more extra stone here. Let me give it one last look over, and then hopefully we can lift these stones up with the transfer tape. Now this one looks like it's in place, but that is an extra stone. And then that one's kind of outside of where it should be. Now the next step is to take our transfer tape, and I found some hot fix transfer tape on the side of my desk that I can reuse. I've used it at least once, but I'm going to hold it just gently on the sides, and then I'm going to go ahead and go down in one smooth motion. Then I want to go ahead and rub on the top of this so that I make sure that this transfer tape has made really good contact with the top of the stones. Now ideally, you wouldn't have this much extra transfer tape because it's kind of hard to get off this plastic mat. So I'm going to start up here and get that removed. Then I'm going to try to peel this back slowly so that if I see any stones that stay in the holes, I can put the tape back down, rub on the top, and try again. So far, so good. Now the embroidery is going to act as a guide on where I need to place my stones. And I want to try to have even gaps between the embroidery and the stones all the way around. So what I mean by that is there's a fairly small gap here and a really large gap there. So I need to move them down. I think that looks pretty good. Now with embroidery, because all the stitches kind of cause your fabric to contract a little bit, sometimes when you do embroidery and bling, they don't fit quite perfectly, and that's why I like to leave a decent sized gap outside of the embroidery before starting the stones. I think this one's going to look great. So now I'll press this at 315 degrees for 15 seconds, but you want to go by whatever the instructions are from the manufacturer or the distributor where you get your stones. Now these stones are a hot or warm peel, so I can go ahead and remove the transfer tape, but I want to do it slowly because with the embroidery, the press doesn't get quite as much pressure as it usually would, and so I want to make sure that they're staying down. And then after I remove this transfer tape, I'm going to go ahead and do a second press. But that is pretty. Look, oh my goodness, so cute. Here's what we have so far. Now what I'm going to do is go ahead and cut off the excess stabilizer. I'll show you the final shirt after that. So here's what it ended up looking like. I love it. I just love it. If you're interested in this embroidery design, I'll go ahead and put a link to it in the video description below. And then if you're interested in the bling design, I have a video that's going to show you how to make it. If you're a member on my YouTube channel, I'll provide the bling design to you. Thanks so much for joining me today. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and until my next video, bye-bye.